Hi Dhruv. So first, let me thank you so much for being here. It's
Thank you
lovely to
for
have
having me.
you. I'm Ranjith. I want to first introduce myself to you. So I'm Ranjit. So I'm a playback singer who's been in the industry for quite some time. So
Yeah, man, I'm familiar with you. Like that, you don't have to introduce yourself at all. But like, it's really nice to finally get to speak with you, of course.
thanks. Likewise, Dhruv. Likewise. I think it's been really exciting. I mean, from the time that I've been on this very interesting
Hmm.
journey of discovering
Hmm.
you and your music, I've been like completely in awe, and the kind of stuff I've been tripping on your Instagram videos. The way you. The flair with which you handle your language, it's amazing. There's so many things. I'm so excited that we have you today. There were so many questions in my head. Also, we have
Please.
learners who have joined us today, and I'm sure we want to know your process and more about you. Tell me about your background in music. So, have you learned? Are you self-taught, or have you formally got trained in music? What is it like?
So, I was kind of buffering for a while. Like, I was this kid who kind of got into the piano early, but was kind of going through the grades very slowly. I started off
Okay.
as as a grade. I started off on the first and second grade kind of thing. Train when I was like, I started off with the piano when I was 7, and
Okay.
uh, and the moment I kind of moved to Hong Kong, we kind of started all this exam process of taking grades and everything of the sort. And it came up to the point where I reached grade 4 on the piano, and I was 14 or 15, but the kids taking the exam were 8 or 9. And I immediately looked at myself as like, I am 6 years too late. At this point, like, I have tried to focus on something I didn't enjoy. So like, but I loved music. So during that time, I just picked up the guitar, and at that time, I kind of decided that I would teach myself how to play.
Mhm.
And I bought books. I watched I watched lots of videos. I bought CDs. Like, incredibly, I used to go on ultimateguitar.com and download tabs. I have a folder somewhere in my desk like this thick of just guitar songs,
Wow.
the tabs of songs and stuff like that. And I would learn how people will play solos, how people will play chords, rhythmic patterns, and everything of the sort, just by playing other songs. And
Mm.
that's how I felt like that's how I learned. And because I think there was no better way to get influenced by someone than to play what they play, to just see what they feel, and like just give into it all the way. And so yeah, like I'm a bit of a mix and match kind of guy, but I think as the years have passed, if someone told me, it's like, hey, do you know what you're playing? I'd literally just point finger guns back and be like, no, so like, I have no clue. Because a lot of the times I work on different tunings, and I just
Wow.
I'm the way I'm kind of building on sounds and everything of the sort, like, no, like, nothing is the same. So I don't exactly know what I'm playing half the time when I do it, but I just do it because it's fun. Like, I think less and just play more. I think that's what matters to me.
Another thing that I noticed, all the songs that I heard that you have done is the guitar riffs, man. They're so cool. I mean, you really certainly, even your Instagram videos, you seem to have this some kind of a strange control over the instrument. Like
Thank you
with
for
so
saying
much
so.
ease.
I wish the algorithm would do better for me though, because like, it's absolutely some, but yeah, thank you.
No, but it's beautiful, and I also know this. You have kind of a unique technique also that you've developed, and which you got you into some kind of a recognition and stuff like that. Can you tell us more about that? What was that like?
Um, I don't know about recognition or not, but like the one thing I do acknowledge was the fact that I think more than anything else, I felt like I just felt like every time I would play something, I would plateau pretty quickly. Like, and I think this is something that a lot of musicians go through. Like, when they're kind
Mm,
of playing something, when they as a musician rather, a technique gets you so far, and then
mm,
after that it's applying some new technique, and that'll get you another
mm,
distance. And then suddenly you're constantly reaching plateaus and plateaus. And it came up to a point where, like, the way I played just got. I didn't feel like I was progressing any further. I was playing the same kind of way, the same thing. It didn't feel like I had a style. It's
Mm,
not like it's not like I was trying to make something out of it. I was literally trying to feel like what about this can I enjoy? What about this
mm,
can be fun? And lo and behold, I had to literally spank my guitar for people to get some joy out of it or something like that. It's like this weird analogy of like trying to like kind of express yourself. And what
mm,
ended up happening was like I would sit with the instrument and I would watch guys on YouTube like Eric Mongrain and Andy McKee, Antoine Dufour, Don Ross, all these guys who at the height of this whole Candy Rat Records label and all that was running on YouTube and everything of the
mm,
sort. And every now and then a new guitarist would pop up, and these guys were like pop stars to me. They were huge. I
mm,
mean, they had all the skills, they had everything, and I was envious of them. I wanted to learn all their songs, and every time a new guy came out, I'd be like, "Yeah, this guy's okay, but have you heard this guy?" Like. And then suddenly, I thought, like, I was trying to suddenly be a part of something that, again, from there, I felt like I was limiting myself. This whole learning fingerstyle guitars and everything of the sort. And one thing that ended up happening a lot while I was performing here in India was that during my performances and everything of the sort, I was playing instrumental music, and a lot of the times I just found that people just talk over it or something. I was as good as like
mm,
some pianist in a hotel bar or something like that, and I felt like what, this would be a good time to sort of maybe just try and sing, because I never learned how to do it. I just gave it a
okay,
go. It's
okay.
just, that's just how everything has been. And then through that, I actually kind of developed a technique which I felt like is more rhythmical rather than technical. That way, I don't
Mm,
have to explain myself so much.
yeah.
And so I kind of gave in to that. And yeah, and so I kept the elements of what I had learned, that what I liked, and I grew on some other elements as well. And not to try and make things sound complicated, I just wanted things to feel so concise, like feel
Mm,
everything of a song feels like, if everything is encapsulated in that idea, and it
mm,
only needs one person to do it. And that was my
right,
objective.
right.
And it's been like one hell of an adventure, because it started off with me just sitting and playing the guitar, to now the song I released on Friday, which is like me actually learning about how I can actually enhance that further. So
Mm,
I I, I think it's been an incredible adventure that way.
awesome, awesome. So that's how the singing happened. Like you just explained that to us. That's how casually you moved into that whole
It
area.
was just more like somebody talking, hey, then I go back.
Okay. When did you really start writing songs? Like how? I mean, like move into a space of expressing yourself.
So, in terms of writing music, this is going to sound very funny, but like, I've actually been writing music for a really long time. Like, I
Mm,
started writing maybe when I was like 15 or 16 or 17, around that time. And I recently just rediscovered songs that I had written a long time ago when, Guitar Pro, there's this program which is like Sibelius, where you can chart out notes and everything. And I used to make my own tabs of songs, like, and
okay.
songs that sometimes I didn't even know how to play on the guitar, but I would type them out and write them out and all this. So I had like sheet music of things that I
Oh.
would make, and I had all these ideas down, and I realized I had written a whole album by the time I was 19, and
Wow.
nobody's ever heard any of the songs of it, and it's all MIDI file sounds and everything of the songs, like robotic noises. So I've been
Mm,
writing for a long time, but the impetus to sort of make it practical, like in the sense that where I could sit down with the instrument and actually feel and perform and play and exist with the music.
mm,
That was something that kind of happened when I was, shortly after my father passed away, and that was like that. There was a weird, like, painful catalyst of things of like trying to express your emotion through music, and so
mm,
kind of existing with that and. Being with that, like, I think what ended up happening was um, I actually felt like I had found my space a bit better. I was finding it better,
mm.
Because you know what they say. I think who's this guy? Ira Glass. I think he's head of New York Times or This American Life. I think Ira Glass, the podcast, the producer for that podcast, and he mentions that as individuals, as creators or something like that, we have a very good idea of when we don't like something we create, and this is because our sometimes we have an idea of what our taste is, and so as creators we know what taste is, and when we create something that's bad, we know it doesn't match our taste, and it takes some time. And this is why a lot of people with when they enter a space where they want to create or something, give up when their talent doesn't match their taste.
Right.
But a person who perseveres slowly builds up on skill until that talent matches their taste, and until they're actually able to appreciate what they make, and slowly they kind of grows like that, like a ladder. But you always start with your taste up high, like you love Phil Collins, but the music you make is like guttural sounds. So like how do you match that? So that was where I was, and I think it took like at least 5 or 6 years of like me actively trying to make songs to feel like I actually belonged, like like I was actually making the stuff I liked.
That's awesome. I think I never thought of it that way. Thank you so much. I think what you just said was like so true, because there are times when this happens to me as well. When you are in this process, and I spent so much of my years just singing songs in a studio where you walk in. People give you a song, people give you the lyrics, you just learn the song, you just do your job, and you're in and out in like 3 hours, 4 hours. You do 4 or 5 sessions like that, and you're like very comfortable and very happy, being in that space, doing other people's, being a part of other people's creativity. But this is
absolutely.
But like exactly how you put it, when I started off, doing whatever little I was trying to fiddle around with and try to introspect or try to find out what is it that I want to express or talk about and things like that. This is exactly what happened, and this is a moment of realization when you just share this very simple idea that's exactly what it is, right? Yeah, because like you think you have Ilayaraja and Rahman in your head all the time.
Exactly. Yeah.
And suddenly when you're doing something and you're like no, you can never, it's tough. You're pretty hard on yourself. Yeah, but this is very Please.
But this is also a great example of understanding that frequency always beats quality, because there's also this whole idea that there's many studies that have gone through, like some art groups, they kind of separated them, and one focused on just making the perfect piece, while the other focused on making as many as they could.
Right.
And so what ended up like in the sense that one focused on quality, the other one focused on quantity. And what ended up happening was the group that focused on quality never finished the project they were working on, but with the group working on quantity actually had a higher frequency of really good pieces of work, like sculptures or whatever it was I think the group had done. And so this is just a great example of the fact that focusing on quality from the start is never going to get you here. Just create the frequency of just keep making. I think this is also like I also kind of take shots in the dark this way, like in the sense like you're just kind of escalating to a point where you're trying to get yourself to a place where you actually like what you make, and and maybe at some level, like maybe sometimes as some artists don't always want to reach that, because once they do, they're like, okay, then what's the point of me continuing? But I think like you keep growing, and
you keep growing. That's true. Especially when I went through your Instagram, one thing I really loved what you did was how you have these videos where you speak about why I wrote Fly, why I wrote Suffocation, and there is so much clarity where you openly talk about your vulnerability so comfortably, I'm like, it's one thing to create a song, but it's one thing to very clearly understand why you did what you did. I think that's a lot of maturity, and like you just very well put. Like it's just the habit of doing it. And that's another thing that we emphasize on our course as well, because this is a singing course. A lot of them come with a lot of
Yeah,
baggages already. A lot of them have
absolutely.
tried learning elsewhere or tried learning by themselves, and they've already come to the conclusion that they cannot do it anymore, or they cannot get better at it. And then we sit with them and we try and tell them, because I know that in singing, like I know how every day you do your routine practice every day, and like you
Your
said,
riyas and everything.
your
Yeah,
riyas and everything, and one fine day you just realize that the kind of things that you never imagined that you could ever do suddenly now easily available, accessible to you, you know.
exactly. Like I always find that there is always a how and why question we love to have. These are two questions that we love to answer. And I think musically, when you're kind of left with a like a conundrum, when somebody is actually looking for an answer in a piece of music, some look for the how, the others look for the why. The
Right.
why comes in those people who don't understand the process or anything of sort, so they look at the lyrics, they understand the maybe there's other parts of the music that they don't understand, or something like that. Maybe there's a melody that just sticks with them, and these are those hooks, and it's like, why would somebody do this, and it stays with you. But then there's the other person of how, like, then that's the technical, that's the musician,
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
person who wants to replicate it and everything. And
correct.
I always understood, like, great like a great like I by myself, I am by no means a great musician or a great artist, but I've noticed this in musicians and artists that I have seen perform. And a great musician will always be able to explain clearly how they did something, but a great
Mm,
artist will more than easily explain why.
right,
You know,
right.
and I guess, like, as a person, I've always been more interested with.
Why?
There was a point in time when I was interested with the how, but I guess
Right.
now I've been more interested with the why. And I think that's a great sort of, conundrum thing. And I'd love to get your thought on that. Is that something that you also kind of look for, or is that something you're trying to build on?
Yeah, definitely. Because sometimes I think, like you said, the how and the why, like you said, I think it's also a kind of coexistence, you know. Because sometimes
Yeah.
when you have the why sorted, the how just happens
Yeah,
automatically. Like sometimes I
exactly.
feel, you know, and this, like you said, vice versa also happens when you're so focused on
Yeah,
one thing, the other just kind of builds on, you know. And there have
absolutely.
also been moments where you are completely lost in the how, in the sense you're so lost in the
Yeah.
process that you don't realize that there's a lot of skills that you're building. You know, like today, you're saying very casually that I'm neither, but I think you are both. You know, because just that of course you've not gathered too much of. Mass with regard to your skills, and probably you have not you, or maybe it's intentionally you don't want to be identified and want to be lurking in that kind of thing that, oh, I know this, I know that, I know that, so which is a great thing. I like the fact that you feel you know nothing, you know, you don't know much, and that I think is a great space. I think that's also why you're able to do a lot of things that you're able to do so you know, naturally, in a sense. It feels so natural, you know.
Well, thank you, man. Like, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Either I'm playing dumb on purpose or I'm dumb in reality. So no.
Tell me about
Yeah, go on.
the whole shift from being employed. I know you've gone through a lot of jobs, and then now you're a full-time musician. And how did that happen? Because a lot of our learners have this kind of a struggle, you know, managing things, you know. So tell me, how is it for you, like, to be a full-time musician?
Um, well, the thing is that I think that I've been a full-time musician now for uh, a bit more than like a little over like half a decade now. Like, it's been some time, and I think it's been a while. Like, I really had to bide my time a little bit to sort of understand things, to have in some way have music kind of reward me in the same way. And but yeah, like, I think, like, when I was starting out, I was in college. I was just this guy who loved playing the guitar, would perform in his music
Mm,
society and everything, would take part in competitions and everything, would just try and
mm, mm,
be this person who, like, overly try to impress. But as soon as college was over, I worked with Microsoft. I worked with like at an ad agency, and then I realized like I had such positive experiences in one and negative experiences in another, and
Mm,
I took the best of both worlds, and I
mm,
figured like, what if I could build a career of my own, without this, that the only limitation to would be myself, like, the effort I put in, and the result of which would be,
mm.
uh, like, as much I only get as much as I put in. And
Right, right.
sometimes it feels like, somebody's playing a cruel joke on me, but to be honest, I think it's more about, more than anything else, like in the time that I have been focusing on it full time, it's just a matter of determination,
Mm,
you know, and just like make what you can, in the
mm.
sense like, just create your songs, put them out there, have the world hear it. If they like it, they like it. If they don't, it's not your fault.
Mm, mm.
Nothing is your fault in this case. I mean, in the sense that you just did your part and put your story out there in the world, and
Yeah,
you can't blame yourself for trying. And then I think that's where I kind of come, where that's where I feel like, like sometimes I
right.
feel like I don't try, and I'm sure like as a musician yourself, as an artist yourself, you can also
Yeah,
feel like, a
yeah.
sense of guilt when you don't try.
That's true. That's true. Just do your
So yeah,
job. Like sometimes, yeah. Just do it for the just because you can do it.
yeah, do it just because you can do it. Precisely. There's nothing else to it. Like, just enjoy the fact that, like, at some level, I could have been sitting in an office maybe all those years ago, and
Mm.
I'd be wondering like, wow, look at all these people do this, and then again I'd be starting in this same place,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
my taste is good, but my music is shit. So this is you just I
same.
think like I think in a sense that we're all in a place where we're kind of always looking for spiritual fulfillment. That's why we do
Yeah,
this. Like, we're
yeah,
always
yeah.
just looking to be fulfilled inside.
True.
So yeah.
So you also crowdfunded your music. Can you tell me a little more on that? Like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
And
Um, that. Oh, okay. That was an adventure. So during 2017, 2016,
mm,
2017,
mm,
I was in the process of like I had recorded an album here in this bedroom only, and I was
okay.
learning how to sort of produce a little bit. I didn't really have everything in order, so I was just kind of all over the place. And in 2017, I started working with a new manager at the time. Now we've been working together for the last 5 years, Rajiv,
Okay.
and he and I kind of sat down and we thought about it, and we said like, look, listen, what if we had one place where everybody would connect and know exactly what we're going to do, what we're going to make, and how we're going about it. And that's when we learned that, like, by doing a crowdfunding campaign, you have this idea of people being invested in your success, invested
Mm,
in the creation,
mm,
invested in your, invested in your future in that way. But even if it is for like a fleeting moment, like, a
mm,
small thing like making an album. Now people look at albums as like, monumental effort, as a
yeah.
monumental thing, like, there's lots of performers, it's the biggest of artists, it's everything of the sort. But like, we figured that, by doing something like this and making enough of a noise about it, we
Mm,
could probably uh, make a dent in some way, like, and actually grow something, grow in a different way, in the sense.
mm,
So
mm,
the biggest objective of this was to make a my biggest objective with the crowdfunding campaign was to just make an absolutely fantastic music video. That was my goal.
mm.
I
Okay.
wanted to tell like a I wanted my song to be a soundtrack to a movie of sorts, and I got
Okay.
that. Like, it was incredible.
Mm,
And I didn't just get that once. I got that twice with like two
wow.
amazing songs, like I made two amazing videos to songs which I made for the album. And then uh, the whole process of doing so, it was less about like, just focusing on, hey, okay, let me just raise the funds and everything of sort, because that's what people kind of go in with at
Mm,
first. But I also learned the other benefit of doing something like that, like,
mm,
by also when you work with other people and everything of the sort, suddenly you're like, everybody is just so intrigued and so excited about how it's going to do, and then suddenly, like,
yeah, yeah.
there's excitement around you, and that's what people invest in, and that's what you want people to join in for. And
Mm,
you sometimes you might feel like you're under a little bit of pressure, but the reality is just it's just a magical thing. Like, you
yeah.
can't believe that people have helped you realize a dream. And yeah,
I also feel when you're saying it that way, it feels like it's like having a party, like having a whole lot of people
precisely,
while you are in the process of it. It's like everybody is invested.
absolutely.
You just told me you have a manager, but is that it, or you have any talent management firm or anything that you work with? Uh,
So I kind of from when I was like starting off in the scene to now and everything, so I kind of stayed away from kind of working with an agency or company
mm,
or anything of the sort,
mm,
because
mm,
slowly what I found over the years is that, like, there's always an impersonal touch that people were people at the time when I was starting at things and all that and stuff. I met some great individuals and all that and stuff who had
mm,
really built the careers of some artists, and I was very inspired. And of
mm.
course, like, you're a young artist, you're like, I want to work with the guy who can make me the best.
Yeah.
But at the time, I think I had to be considered about it, and I wanted to work with someone who genuinely was way smarter than me,
Mm,
like, who had this mindset, who thought of things that I never thought of in the first place,
right.
who kind of who said, like, look, listen, you don't have this now, but if you do this, there is a chance you can do that, and there's a chance you
Mm,
can. And 90% of the time that kind of happened, like maybe 2 3 years down the line, but we started early. Okay. But yeah, like, but that's the thing, and that's what ended up happening with Rajiv. Like, we just randomly he
mm,
randomly messaged me one day, and we went out for lunch and we talked. And I thought uh, being a musician was just about getting gigs and going out and playing live shows,
mm, mm,
figuring it out and all that and stuff. But the more I grew, the more I realized that there is this avenue of excuse me, there's this avenue of you know understanding how to sort of continue releasing music. There's this avenue of how to be a how to actually be a creative professional, and that's like how you just invest in your work and just have as much fun as you can. Like, I think, like, that's something that you really need to uh, I think that's something that you can't really give up, and make the most of what you have. Like, sometimes you don't realize the tools of your trade. Like, a simple microphone can do so much for you.
yeah.
And so I tried not to limit myself by what I had, but only by how much I was willing to put in. And I actually needed somebody to help me realize that. And
Mm,
so I think in that case, Rajiv was like an excellent person.
awesome.
And yeah.
So, what do you see as your future? Like, do you have a roadmap? Like,
I think at this point, like, the career of an artist is very hard to understand where they're going to head sometimes, and especially, like, I felt, at least for myself, as a guy who writes in English, sings in English, in a language that is not native to our country,
mm,
but was brought here. I constantly find that, like, over time, um, that I guess I've always found it hard to understand where I am,
mm,
or where I'm heading. But at this point right now, I have one simple goal, and it's just that, like, I want my music now. What I've been doing is I've learned how to make my music in the
okay.
best way that I possibly can. Now my next goal from here is I just want it to be heard. And so my
Right.
biggest goal from here is just like to push it out into the world better, actually learn that side of the work better, and you
Mm,
know, to actually improve on a different facet, which is just like it extends
mm,
the music a little further,
right.
um, and doesn't feel temporary. I've often felt like I don't want to be caught in the noise of what is in the middle. Like, I always feel like I feel like the kind of person who, uh, uh, you know, it's like a it's like if you're caught underwater, but like, if you're a whale that always swims underwater, but at the moment it kind of rises up to the surface and
Yeah.
just like sprouts out air. That's exactly what I want to be. Like, an explosion of just breaking through the surface. And I think like, I think more that for me that has been just to focus on writing more songs, working on releases. I personally have releases planned for the next 2 years almost. You
Mm.
know, it's just a matter of sitting and producing them, getting better
Right.
at it. I've been working and collaborating with songwriters and everything, and I think what I have learned more than anything else is like I have my own path, I have my own journey, and the moment I actually focus on that path, I've seen other things just come in and add to it rather than usurp it or take over it.
Right.
So it's become like like for example this memories thing was incredible. It just added to the journey because it was an album I made 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Oh, sorry, 4 years ago almost now,
Mm-hmm.
and but the music had such an impact that it kind of made its way to something like 2 years later. I didn't know it's such an early investment you make in yourself, and
Right.
that's what I'm kind of thinking. Like I just keep making my music, and I have dreams of like having it feature on TV shows and movies and everything. So I'm not gonna stop. I think that is something I'll just continue and everything of the sort. So I'll just keep at it. But
That's
yeah.
awesome, man.
So I just wanted to know how you go about planning your music for an album.
I think it's better to not go with a plan. Like for me personally, like what ends up happening is I write a bunch of songs, and maybe I'll write 20 songs or 30 songs or something like that, and I'll just pick the best of them, and then that becomes an album. I don't really think about it, except for when I have to put it together. And that's the only time I actually think, like, how am I going to order this story? How am I going to put this in order? And I think the only time where I actually threw that out of the window was also when I was working on my last album, which was the Book of I, which I released last year, and that was the way I went about with that. I kind of focused more on just releasing a song every month. I was like, you know what, just make this an objective, work hard, make these the best songs you have ever made. Don't think about anything else, and that's exactly what I did. All I did was just focus on, I'll put one song out every month. I'll tell a new story, and I'll be more vulnerable when I'll be like, I guess there's nobody else. Like, who am I going to be ashamed of now? Me only. So what else? Like, I'll look like an idiot, but it's of my own making. So there's nothing else. Nobody's going to say anything about that. And so I kind of went down that path thinking like, okay, how do I kind of make a new story every month and everything of the sort. And so this idea of planning my music, I realized it gets thrown out of the window because every time I have to plan, I have to design a sound, I have to design a direction, I have to design everything. And the more I did that, the less I actually liked the songs I was making. And now that I think about it, and like if I were to play a song that I played in an older album and then try to bring it into a new thing, it doesn't feel good to me anymore. I have to remake it, I have to redo it, I need to make it feel like it's something present. And so I think planning is sometimes unnecessary, and I would go back to thinking about like, the joy of actually making a song is what really matters, and make it as it comes and everything of the sort, and with that you'll get your whole story.
How do you monetize on it if I'm doing it
Yeah.
full time, right? So
Yeah.
could you just give us any tips on how that can be
Yeah.
possible?
Yeah, it's a challenge, and I think like it's evolved even further from when I started, because like, and it's not like that long ago. I mean, like, I've gone full time 6 years ago, but in that time it's changed so much. We've got guys in the chat here like Bryden, who's like an incredible guitarist who you've seen from he's been in bands like Slay and played with the Raghu Dixit project, gone with his own thing, with Parth, and then just like and then gone this route of making content on YouTube, and then that's also become like a thing which he tours with privately. But then also you also have this other side where people always idolize, but it's also true, it can happen. You have your Pratik Kuhat, who just like has his own music, and everything. I think like I fall more in the latter kind of boat, in the sense that like I think like where, I rely on my creations, but to monetize it, it's a challenge, because you're kind of asking someone to be, I'll be honest here, you're kind of asking somebody to sort of invest in unknown. Right now they don't know who you are, what you're going to be, what you're going to become, if this is your journey, whether you're going to be here temporarily or not. You have to put, the only way you can show that is like with a consistent effort and with a consistent amount of contribution to work, to collaboration, releases, everything of the sort. At some level you have to show some sense of consistency. So what worked for me when I was starting out, and everything else, is that content is king first. Do your best to sort of show what you're capable of. And it's true, like now with the fact that people can make a 15-second video and put it on reels, people are getting hundreds and thousands of engagements, like engaging with like individuals from all across and everything of the sort. Of course that does catch up to you. The mental energy can be taxing. I want people to be aware of this, because this is something I face, because you can go from loving social media to hating it overnight, and this is exactly how I felt. But put yourself out there. Let people know what you do, and then from there you have to understand that there's a couple ways you can go. You can either go down this path of investing in yourself first when you have nothing, so that means relying on the support of others. So like we spoke of crowdfunding, hoping that your parents are willing to invest in your dreams and everything of the sort, which I know a lot of people worry about. But or trying to find any opportunity to perform or compete. So for me, what ended up happening was I used to take part in competitions, so like college competitions where you would win some prize money, and I would save that. And the next thing I invested in was a guitar and everything else. So suddenly everything I would earn would come back to me. So it's not just like monetizing, because people would love to earn the money, but you have to know what to do with it. You have to reinvest it back in yourself. So um, yeah, the one thing that I would say is that to keep releasing music, because every time you release songs, you put yourself in an opportunity to be heard more, and that can earn royalties for you. You can actually earn money from the streams you can get from your songs and everything. It might not be significant or anything. You obviously have to be of a very massive stature to actually earn in a way where you can actually sustain your life and everything, but it doesn't mean it's not possible. That's the only thing. It's a challenge, and but it's something that you can work towards to continue making content. And I think the other thing is that the best way to actually monetize your skill is actually to reinvest in yourself. So when you are working in like music or something, for example, don't always, if you're a guitarist, don't focus on just being the guitarist guy. Like, learn anything and everything about music. Learn how the bassist does his job, the keyboardist, like you learn how to play those instruments, learn how to use a computer to produce, learn how to mix music, master it, produce it, because these are skills, these are like soft skills that people won't teach you otherwise. So these are things that you should actually learn how to do, because at the end of the day you actually create, then from there you give yourself the opportunity to build a community of people who can collaborate with you, work with you, and build from there. And that's how you actually kind of build the foundations of a career. So you really need to focus on a multitude of things before you even think of trying to even monetize something.
This has been super inspiring, Dhruv, talking to you. Of course, we mostly do this in the pretext of doing it for the learners, but I think your interview has, I mean, this discussion, I'm sorry, it's not an interview, it's a conversation. In fact, has
That's
been
okay,
like
man.
so much of an eye opener for me, even on a personal level. So super inspiring, the words that you say and the way you say them. It's beautiful. So I'm sure you're
Thank
going
you.
to crack this thing that you have ahead of you. I think you've really come a long way. I think it's just a small last run that's left, and I'm really excited, and I'm going to keep looking out for you, to seeing you everywhere. And, like you just said, like the whale.
PaatuClass.